Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to another turkey pattern test here. And I've got a combination that when I was flipping through the books, we haven't tried this combination yet to my surprise. So I figured I'd bring it out and see what it can actually do. So for the load we're going to be running today, I pulled out some more of these, the Winchester Longbeard XR loads. These are the 12 gauge, 3 inch, 1200 feet per second, 1 3/4 of 5s. Those Longbeard 5s have definitely been some pretty good looking performers so far from what we've tested on the channel, so I have some decent hopes for today's setup. And speaking of that setup, I brought back out this guy, the Mossberg 835 Ulti-Mag, and I threw in the Kicks Gobblin Thunder 680 constriction choke here, which has shown us some good results also on the channel with our testing. So this might be a pretty good combination here. But as for the testing, I have the usual setup, which is the turkey target over here at 40 yards away from the bench. I also do have the chronograph out here, so the shot will be across the chronograph. So we'll see how close we can actually get to that 1200 feet per second on the box. But enough talking, let's get you guys set up on the target. I'll head up to 40 yards and take our shot across our chronograph. We'll take a quick look at our chronograph number and then we'll go see how they perform down here. So let's go over here and get set up and shoot them and see what they can do. Alright, so that round gave us 1302 feet per second across the chronograph. The box called for 1200, so we're 102 feet per second above the box claim here. So we're starting to move pretty quick for a turkey load, but I don't think that's terribly unusual for these Longbeards because we've seen them above the box velocity before and they still seem to perform. So let's go down to our target now and see how they actually performed at 40 yards. Alright y'all, so now we're down here at our 40 yard paper. And this is what we got. He is absolutely a dead turkey. There's 5 or 6 in the brain and 5 or 6 more in his spine right there. So absolutely a dead bird. There's no question about that. But looking at our overall pattern here, it's a little bit interesting. It's absolutely a turkey killing pattern. There's no question there. But this is a little bit more open or a little bit more spread out than what I've typically seen out of these Longbeard 5s. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing by any means, but looking at it overall, we have a little bit less of a core or a hot core necessarily, I guess you could say, than what I've seen before out of these Longbeard 5s. And a little bit more of a spread out shot pattern here. Now, like I've said already, he is absolutely a dead bird, and that little bit more open pattern, it's not always necessarily a bad thing. You will absolutely get quite a bit of leeway out of that pattern for sure there. At least 12 to 14 inches. I mean, that paper is 12 inches wide, and you can see anywhere on that piece of paper that that bird might move his head, he will absolutely be a dead turkey. So overall, I can't really critique this too much. It is absolutely a usable pattern for sure. I just would have guessed personally that the core would have been just a little bit more condensed or a little bit hotter, but definitely not a bad pattern whatsoever in this case for sure here. Okay, and this is the wad that we got out of that shell. Just your typical Longbeard wad, nothing really too special to see here. There's nothing down in it except just some of that dusty buffer material, waxy stuff they use, which no big deal. I do think the porting on that Kicks choke might have caught these two petals just a little bit and tore them up right on the edge, but still not really anything unusual or anything I'd be too concerned about. It's very common from what we've seen on those Kicks chokes, especially with that porting design, that it can actually tear the corners and the edges of your wad up a little bit, but nothing out of the ordinary here, and I definitely think it did what it was supposed to do in this case. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about how these performed? It's very clearly a usable turkey pattern. He is a beyond dead turkey right there. So we definitely can't argue too much about that kind of performance for sure. But like I said earlier, I would have just guessed that the core would have been a little bit hotter, but it does make a little bit of sense being that it is a 680 choke in an overboard gun like the 835. But either way, that pattern, although it's not quite as hot of a core as what we have seen out of some other setups, it will absolutely afford you enough wiggle room in close and enough leeway out a little bit farther ranges if you have to contort into a weird shot or anything like that. So what do you think about it? We didn't see anything too out of the ordinary here. It performed pretty much like you would expect a Longbeard load to. Absolutely a usable pattern out to 40 yards, there's no doubt there. But What are your thoughts about it? And what did you guess it was going to perform like beforehand? Leave a comment and let me know. And on that note, I've got another test to run out here today before it gets too hot. So I'm going to jump back to it. Stay tuned because we've got plenty more stuff coming. And I'll see y'all in the next one.